Hey everyone, in today's fanfic, we are going to look at what might happen if Ahsoka was the one who confronted Anakin after he turned to the dark side, rather than Obi-Wan. So our story is going to take place on Mandalore, just after Obi-Wan shares his concerns about Anakin, right before Ahsoka goes and confronts Maul. After Obi-Wan shares his concerns, Ahsoka realizes what she must do. Though capturing Maul is important, Ahsoka cannot escape the feeling that going to Anakin is where she needs to be. Whether it was the need to follow the prompting of the Force, or to simply be with a friend in need, Ahsoka knew that she had to leave Mandalore immediately. Ahsoka leaving at this point, though, would most likely result in Maul's escape, which doesn't change much for him because ultimately he escapes anyways. Though it might change the fate of Rex, but perhaps that's another video. Calling Rex and Bo-Katan together, Ahsoka tells them that she must leave, but Rex should continue to aid Bo-Katan and her loyalists. Rex's only protest at this is Ahsoka isn't bringing him with her. General Skywalker is my friend too. If he's in trouble, I'd want to help, he says. But ultimately, he understands that Ahsoka needs to go alone. Bo-Katan would resist Ahsoka's plan to leave a little bit more, but also ultimately realizes that there's no stopping her. After leaving Rex and Bo-Katan, Ahsoka borrows a Mandalorian starfighter and heads straight for Coruscant. While she's traveling to Coruscant though, Mace Windu and the other 3 Jedi Masters enter Palpatine's office to arrest him. And of course, we know how this plays out. Exiting hyperspace outside of Coruscant, Ahsoka is overcome with a sudden sense of turmoil. Something was not right. Through the Force, she could almost hear Anakin's voice, more distressed than she had ever heard. Anakin has officially turned. Continuing to follow the Force, Ahsoka flies toward the Jedi Temple, but alters course as she thinks more about where Anakin might go when he's in trouble. Only a couple minutes later, Ahsoka lands the borrowed Mandalorian starfighter next to Padmé's J-type Naboo cruiser. Whatever Anakin was going through, Ahsoka knew that Padmé would be the key to helping him. Padmé gently placed a cup of hot tea in front of Ahsoka. It had been months since Ahsoka had last seen Padmé. Despite the circumstances, it was good to be around her again. Seeing the rounded belly of her friend, she suddenly began to understand part of what Anakin was facing. "I'm worried about him, Ahsoka," said Padmé. "He won't be honest with me. And he will not listen to Obi-Wan. Maybe he'll listen to you." Padmé paused. Have you seen him since you..." She paused again. "Since the trial?" Ahsoka appreciated that Padmé was attempting to spare her the memories of, what was the best way to put it? Leaving the Jedi Order? "Yesterday. Just briefly," she replied. In truth, she regretted being so short with Anakin before Mandalore. He had been so excited to see her, but at the time, capturing Maul seemed like the only important thing. More important than reunions. Shortly after their conversation began though, both Ahsoka and Padmé looked out the balcony window in horror. There was smoke rising from the Jedi Temple. Ahsoka looked at Padmé. "I need to go there," and Padmé said almost to herself, "So do I." The two hopped in Padmé's speeder and raced toward the Jedi Temple. At this exact moment, Order 66 was playing out across the galaxy. Clone troopers were turning on their Jedi generals and commanders. Ahsoka landed the speeder on a landing pad separate from the main hangar. 2 clone troopers marched up as the two were exiting the speeder. The blue paint on their armor brought a brief reassurance to Ahsoka until Ahsoka's reaction was lightning fast. She drew both sabers and deflected the blaster shots. Using the Force, she knocked both clones together with enough force to knock them out. Ahsoka looked back to see if Padmé was okay. She was. "Anakin!" Padmé called out toward the end of the landing pad walkway where the 2 troopers had come from. For a moment, Anakin stood there, as if paused in time. Then, quickly, he threw back his deep hood and ran toward Padmé, who was running toward him. In Meeting her in the middle of the walkway, the two embraced for a moment before Anakin stepped away and now fixed his focus on Ahsoka. "You shouldn't be here, Ahsoka," anger seared in his voice. "Anakin, what is going on?" Ahsoka was afraid of the answer to this question. "The Jedi turned against the Republic, and my loyalties are to the Chancellor and to you." As he said this, he looked at Padme. Ahsoka took a step forward, reaching towards Anakin, a gesture that displayed compassion, but also confusion. But rather than goad Anakin, Ahsoka simply asked, "What happened?" Padme held his flesh and blood hand as Ahsoka continued to slowly approach Anakin. And then it happened. Anakin ignited his blue lightsaber. Padme let go of his hand in shock. As she stepped back, she looked up into her husband's face and saw tears running down his cheeks. "If I don't do this, you'll die. The baby will die." He wept while looking down at his wife. Ahsoka's reaction was barely in time. She activated both of her lightsabers with just enough time to cross them and catch Anakin's leaping downward slash. Using her lightsabers to push off Anakin's, Ahsoka leapt backwards, trying to create as much distance between her and Anakin. She tried to plead with him. She just wanted to understand what had happened to her old master, her friend. Anakin swung his lightsaber with fury as he quickly backed Ahsoka to the edge of the landing platform. Ahsoka was able to sidestep out of the way by escaping through a pause in Anakin's relentless attacks. But he continued. Ignoring all pleas for reason from Ahsoka, Anakin pressed the attack. And Padme felt helpless at the sight before her. Her husband was unrecognizable. It was almost like he was someone else who looked and sounded like Anakin Skywalker. The duel between Anakin and Ahsoka was fierce. It took everything Ahsoka had to stay alive. Anakin's lightsaber was a flurry of rage that enveloped her. Before long, Anakin knocked one lightsaber from Ahsoka's grip and kicked her to the ground, sending the second flying not far behind the first. Ahsoka looked up at the yellow glow of Anakin's eyes, but there were also tears. Conflict was tearing his soul in two, and Ahsoka did not need the Force to recognize that. Anakin raised his lightsaber to finish the job, but not before Padme rushed in between them. Anakin immediately stopped and stumbled back. With tears in her eyes, Padme explained that Anakin was heading down a path that she could not follow, and that she doesn't know him anymore. Looking from his wife to his former Padawan, the conflict in Anakin broke him. Sobbing, Anakin explained that this was the only way to save Padme from death. His new powers were the thing that would protect his new family. Without Obi-Wan to appear at this moment, in Anakin and Padme's conversation, there would be no one to send Anakin into a blind rage, because Ahsoka did not bring up the feelings of frustration and jealousy that Obi-Wan did. In fact, she maybe even helped calm Anakin in a way similar to Padme. After a few tense moments, Anakin finally deactivated and dropped his lightsaber to the ground and fell into Padme's arms. Sobbing, he explained everything that Palpatine had told him, that he had done for Palpatine, that he planned to do for Palpatine. The deeds he had just finished inside the temple before coming out to the landing pad were horrific. Anakin knew that he was more lost than ever, but Padme was here, listening. Then he felt Ahsoka's hand on his shoulder. "We both came here for you, Anakin. We want to help." Padme and Ahsoka were able to calm Anakin down enough to convince him to help stop the attack that was still happening inside the temple. Perhaps there was still a small chance to rescue survivors. But at that moment, more troops began to file onto the landing pad, encircling the three of them. And then a laugh that sent chills down everyone's spine. Palpatine, dressed in full black robes with a deep hood, emerged out from behind the wall of 501st troopers. "I gave you a task, Lord Vader." What do you guys think of this fanfiction? I really do think that if Ahsoka was the one to confront Anakin right after he turned, she would not have caused the same rage as Obi-Wan did in Revenge of the Sith, because I think that Ahsoka would have been a little bit more understanding and would have given Anakin and Padme the space they needed to really have the conversation they tried to have on Mustafar. Anakin was jealous and frustrated by Obi-Wan, so his old master arriving on Mustafar sent him into a spiral and really made it impossible for Padme to reason with him. I don't think that would have happened if Ahsoka was the Jedi to confront him. I think that Ahsoka's presence with Padme really would have de-escalated the situation. Now, I'm going to be doing fanfics a little bit differently. Rather than do 3, 4, or sometimes 5 parts, actually, I think I have a 7-part one. I'm going to keep them to 1 or 2 parts max. It just depends on the story. But for this one, I want to split it up into 2 parts. In the first part, I wanted to focus on how Ahsoka might confront Anakin. The next part will focus on the aftermath of this encounter. So I'll catch you in the next video, and may the Force be with you.